the account manager based in Sydney, regional director, looking after APAC, Asia Pacific time zone customers. So nice to have you. Today, I'd like to introduce you to our CEO and founder, Adam Sadman, who will go through a demonstration of our base level product, SpiraTest. We have been around for 18 years. Some of our customers in Asia Pacific stem from state government in Australia, who've been with us for 16 years and still active. We have about 100 active customers in Australia. So for those that are not in the know, we wanted to just do a refresh on SpiraTest because it's come a long way in the 18 years. We actually give product release updates at least 10 times a year, and the product roadmap is shared transparently on our website. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Adam, who will share with you why SpiraTest is a strong option in terms of looking at being better than legacy products. And I'll leave it to you, Adam, to share that proof point. Thank you.
Thanks, Camille, for the introduction. I'll be talking today about SpiraTest and how it fits into the Inflectra suite and why you should be strongly considering it to improve your quality of your processes and technology. But let's get into the presentation. So first of all, for those who are not as familiar with the company, I always want to make sure people understand, learn a bit more about the company and the background before we jump into the tool. So first of all, who are we as Inflectra? Well, we are a company that's dedicated to one thing: quality, and really your quality. We want to make sure that when you deliver software or systems, it has the highest quality, and that's in our DNA. And we believe that you don't have to make a trade-off between delivering quality and delivering at speed and at scale. So customers come to us and tell us all the time, I'm trying to deliver increased functionality. Customers are more demanding. I have to deliver faster and at scale I've never done before. But at the same time, we cannot have a compromise in quality. And they're struggling with how to balance those two imperatives. And in Inflectra, we believe we help you but not only balance those two, but have the genius of the end, be able to deliver at scale, at speed, with quality, and that there is no trade-off. And obviously, quality comes from within. You can't have a good quality in a product if there isn't good quality in the company and the people behind the company. And so one of the things I really want to mention at the beginning is our company's core values, because these are things that we don't just put on our website or on a PowerPoint like today, but we actually live them. We hire by them. In our annual review process, there's something we measure people by, and we try and live these every single day. And really, it's about the customer experience. So the customer experience is going to be from the people you interact with and the products that you use, and the core values infuse that. So the values that we hold dear are building great products, obviously, but that means listening to you, our customers, or if you're not yet a customer, listening to our pre-sales customers as well to understand what are your needs, what are you looking for in products, not just chasing the latest thing that Gartner says is important or investors are putting money into. We want to understand what your real needs are. Obviously, we do look at the industry and look at the market to make sure we understand what the innovations are available, but we don't just blindly apply technology for technology's sake. It's all driven from our customers' needs, not Wall Street. The team you're going to interact with, everyone you ever meet, they're people who want to get things done for you. They want to help you solve your problems, whatever their role, whatever their title. Doesn't matter what their role is in the company. They'll work together to solve your problem versus this is my territory. So really important that whenever you work with anyone in our team, you should have an amazing customer experience. And behind that, we have to have a great workplace and a great community. And we actually have lots and lots of social missions we do to expand technology into different communities. We work with universities to provide our software for free so people can learn how to use tools, how to improve their careers. We've also provided software to underserved communities to, again, lift everyone up into the technology space. So again, really the company behind our products is really important. You can't have quality products without a quality team and a quality company. Now, what do we do as a company? Well, we provide functionality from the ideation phase, although I hate that word, all the way through to support and maintenance. So if you have a new idea for a product or a new feature you want to implement, our platform across all the tools we have helps you come up with new ideas, define the requirements, understand how to build them, test them, deploy them, release them safely, and then support them. And all the tools we have fit into that mission. They do cover different areas. Today, we are focusing on SpiraTest, but we have other tools that I'll talk about before we get into SpiraTest that fill out other parts of that end-to-end life cycle of ideation, product design, and innovation. So the suite that we have looks as follows. If you take those logos and you put them into a block diagram, that's what we offer. And today we're demonstrating SpiraTest, which is the entry-level product, as Camille mentioned, in the suite. SpiraTest is great because it lets you add quality to your existing tool chain. You can be using other platforms and products like Jira from Atlassian, Azure DevOps from Microsoft, GitHub, GitLab, many other different tools you could be using. SpiraTest is a drop-in solution that adds quality and traceability into the mix. And for many customers, that's the right decision. However, for other customers that don't yet have an established tool chain, SpiraTeam is often the better solution because that's an end-to-end quality platform that includes everything from design, development, planning to testing and rollout in one solution. And then, of course, for customers that are much larger, they might be using either SpiraTest or SpiraTeam, and they realize that they've got a much larger deployment. They've got multiple teams that need to work together. They've got multiple teams using different tools. SpiraPlan brings it all together for the enterprise. So typically, clients will start with SpiraTest, SpiraTeam, and then grow into SpiraPlan. Today's webinar and today's demo will be exclusively SpiraTest. However, if you like what you see and you realize that there may be other things you need, please feel free to attend another webinar we'll be doing on SpiraTeam and SpiraPlan. It's all part of one family. And to upgrade between them is seamless. You just simply ask us and we can upgrade it. There's no reinstallation or no data changes. It's literally one family, different feature levels only. And then rounding out the overall suite, we also have Chronodesk, our IT service management platform, SpiraCapture for exploratory testing, and then obviously a lot of interest as you deliver at speed and at scale with automated testing. So Rapise is our test automation platform, a completely codeless, AI-driven platform for doing web, client apps on desktop, web services, mobile, but also has lots of capabilities around packaged applications. We've got frameworks for things like Salesforce, Dynamics, SAP, Oracle, a lot of the big, hard, complex apps that are hard to test. We have functionality for those. Now, our mission, as I mentioned at the beginning, is to really, I think, break that dilemma that people have, which is we want to deliver at speed and at scale. We want to be agile. We want to do CI/CD, DevOps, really work in a very fast-paced, modern process. But we also recognize that software is increasingly intertwined with society and our ecosystem. The entire world's economy runs on software. So if something breaks, 20 years ago, people didn't care so much. You fixed it, and no one even knew. Maybe now you're probably looking at being sued. You're looking at regulators demanding why did something not work. You could be looking at lawsuits. You could lose billions of dollars in fines. The costs of failure and costs of non-compliance are huge. So if you get what Boeing calls a quality escape event, that can be a major problem for a company. So as we move things to be faster and more agile, there's actually simultaneously a greater need for more regulation, more process, more compliance. And how do customers bridge that? That's what the Inflectra platform does. Whether it's SpiraTest being added to your tool chain, SpiraTeam becoming your tool chain, it doesn't matter. Our platform and our products bridge this gap for you. And if you don't remember anything else from today's webinar, this is probably the most important slide. It's bridging these two worlds. Now, we're going to be talking about SpiraTest. How does SpiraTest do that, and how does it fit into the mix? And also, why is it different, and why should you look at it? Well, first of all, there are many tools out there that do just test management. We've realized that traceability and the ability to bring requirements, tests, and defects together is really important. There's no point just having tests, whether they're manual or automated, in a place, in a repository. They have to be integrated into the requirements, into the user stories, into the upfront design and development work that's going on. Simultaneously, they have to be linked to the defects. How can you understand the quality of your solution if you don't understand those metrics? For example, if you've got user stories or requirements that have hundreds of failed test cases, many, many defects, you don't want to be fixing lots and lots of bugs. You want to get to the root cause of it and understand why there's so many issues. Simultaneously, you may have lots and lots of unrelated defects, but actually come from one root cause. So from an efficiency and a causality, you need to understand what is the root cause of these failures. SpiraTest helps you do that, helps you bring that information together in one place. And obviously, there are lots of tools out there. Your teams are probably using a whole bunch of different things together to do their job. They're probably using tools from Atlassian, from Microsoft. They could be using tools from ServiceNow, GitHub. They may be using open source products like Redmine, Track, Selenium, Jenkins, whatever it is they're using in their tool chain. And it probably is different tools for different teams. obviously we want to integrate those, make it really easy for you to do that. So SpiraTest has an open platform with lots and lots of pre-built integrations, which we'll talk about shortly, to make that really easy for you. We don't want you to be a system integrator. We want you to get up and running quickly and deliver value. The other thing that's really important is hosting. And this really wasn't a big issue maybe a few years ago. People didn't care so much. This has become much more important. So we offer our SpiraTest and actually our other products in multiple different flavors. So obviously the easiest is simply to have our cloud version, which is our SaaS version. And for those calling in from the Asia Pacific time zones, we can host that in Australia, in Singapore, India. We can also host it in the EMEA in Europe, and also in both the US and Canada separately. And we do that for data privacy reasons. We have clients in each of these different regions where the data mustn't leave that region, and we can support that by having private regional access, even though we're using the AWS platform. So we give you that unique capability, all the benefits of Amazon Web Services, all the benefits of having it in a specific privacy region. For some customers, though, they want to go further than that. They want the option of being able to host it in either a private cloud, which could be their own AWS or Azure instance, or it could be their own physical service. It could be bare metal, or it could be virtual. That's up to you. All our products can be deployed in any of these different configurations. It doesn't matter to us. There's 100% feature parity. Camille mentioned we release 10 times a year. That's the same release parity, same release cadence for download and cloud, and the same API compatibility. So if you spend a lot of work integrating SpiraTest on SaaS into your environment and you want to move on premise, or the reverse, you can move it seamlessly. We can move it for you. It takes a few hours at most, and all your APIs, all your integrations will work as they did on the other platform. So it gives you great flexibility from an infrastructure and deployment standpoint. And we are AWS partners, so we've access to a lot of great information of how to migrate to or from the AWS cloud. Just some customers to look at. We've got a much larger list on our website. I won't spend much time on this, but we do work with many different clients, many different industries, do a lot of work for very large clients and also for some medium-sized clients. All of our clients, though, really care about quality. If you look at any of these clients, and if you think about the businesses they work in, if any of these businesses don't work correctly, your power goes out, you have no water, you can't get money from the bank, probably your servers go down, the phones don't work. You can't book a vacation. Maybe that's less important in the bottom right. You can't go to Costco. My God, that's an emergency. But joking aside, all these industries are mission critical. All of the use cases these clients are using our products for are mission critical. And it shows you the importance of the Spira platform and managing quality. Of course, we support all these different standards. If you go to our website, we have a whole section of white papers and articles that explain how you can use our platform, different products, to support these different standards. So whatever industry you're in, whether it's automotive, aerospace, manufacturing, retail, healthcare, we have specific white papers and playbooks and templates in the product to help you get up and running quickly and maintain compliance whilst being agile. Earlier on, I did allude to this. We actually have about 80 different integrations. Of those, about 65 are available for SpiraTest. There are some that are only in Spira Team and Plan. We have integrations, though, overall, with 80 different products. We have a technology partnership ecosystem as well. So whatever tool you're using, we have an integration for it. Or if we don't, you can let us know, and we'll add it to our backlog. And we actively develop integrations with tools all the time. Again, we want you to be using our tools, not being a system integrator. That's our job or our partner's job. Just some awards. If you go on Capterra, which is now, I think, part of Gartner Digital Markets, G2 Crowd, IT Central Station, IT Infotech, Software Reviews, a whole bunch of other websites. We've got a lot of great reviews of SpiraTest. We've got video testimonials. We've also got case studies. So lots of great resources of customers that have used Spira in different contexts, and we can provide those on request as well. Now, you like what you see, the product looks, we're going to show you the demo, obviously, so you'll see it live. If you like what you see, how do you get there? Well, how do you migrate your data into SpiraTest? We've made that super easy as well. So first of all, if you're using one of these tools and some other tools I'll mention as well, you can migrate with one click. If it's TestRail, Qtest, or Practitest, and I don't like picking on other companies, every company's got strengths and weaknesses, but obviously you're coming to this webinar to learn about why you should move to SpiraTest. We have customers moving actively right now from all of these three products. We also have customers moving from Microsoft Test Manager, which is now part of ADO. We've also got customers moving from the tool that used to be called Test Director, Quality Center, ALM, from a variety of companies. I think it's Mercury, HP, Micro Focus and OpenText. That's one of our most popular migration paths. Also, we've got some customers in smaller companies moving from an open source tool called TestLink. We have that as well. And there's some other ones on our website, but these are the big ones. And why would you want to migrate? I don't want to talk about other companies, but customers have told us that there are reasons why. We won't go into that on this call. But if you are looking to migrate from one of these platforms or one of the other ones, we have this one-click migration tool. All you do is connect to the tool, you put in the URL, you put in the login, the password, or the API key, depending on what that tool uses for its connector. You then put in the SpiraTest information, you check the box to say what you want to migrate, and depending on the tool that you're migrating from, obviously there are different types of data they can bring in. For example, TestRail doesn't have requirements or defects, so that's not listed. Some other tools call things different things, so you'll see that as well. But when you hit that button and say next and start import, it brings in the entire project from the other tool. Not only does it bring in the requirements if they have them, the test cases, the test runs, the test steps, the execution history, and if there are defects, it will bring those over as well. But it also brings over the relationships between them, so you don't lose traceability. At the beginning, I mentioned how quality and traceability are so important. Well, there's no point migrating data if you lose that. So these migration tools bring over all the different artifacts and the relationships for you. You click that button, get a cup of coffee, come back, migration is done, and you're good to go with SpiraTest. It's that easy. So that's the slideware, and I always believe that slides are great, but let's get into a live application. And then at the end of the live application, we'll be doing a Q&A. So and Camille will be moderating that. So if you have any questions on the slides, just write them in the Q&A window of Zoom. And when we get past the live demo portion, we will come then back to the Q&A. So don't worry. But let's go ahead and the demo I'll be doing today is going to be focused in this rough order. I did it this morning for the EMEA and US East Coast. I deviated a little bit, but we're going to go through an overview of the product, the dashboards and navigation. We'll talk a bit about requirements management, release management. We'll do some creating of test cases. We'll create some test sets. We'll run the tests, and we'll log a few bugs. And we'll also do some reporting, and then we'll do questions. So let's go over to the application, which is right here. And this is SpiraTest. So when you first sign up for a trial and log in, you will see this page. And for those of you who've used SpiraTest before, if any of you have, or signed up for a trial a week ago, you might say, what is this new page I see here? This start your Spira journey here. You might say, I didn't see that. And you'll be right, because this is a brand new feature we rolled out in 7.13. And as Camille mentioned, we do release updates 10 times a year, so almost every month, but not quite. And we did release 7.13 about 2 days ago. So if you sign up for a trial today, you will see 7.13. It looks like this. And one of the newest features actually is improving the onboarding. So when you first come in, it's going to walk you through some of the things you should do right at the beginning. And I'll just quickly mention those since it is new. First of all, it's going to make sure you've logged in. Well, obviously we did that because we've logged in. Then we might want to update an avatar. Now I'm logged in as system administrator, which is the root user. Now I don't really care about changing my avatar, but I could. That's one thing it might recommend you can do and show you how to do that. You might want to pick your color theme. I'm in light mode, but it is getting late here at night, so I might want to go to dark mode like that. Maybe not. Maybe it's too dark and I want to go light. So you can change the dark or light theme. It's per user's preference. There's also in-app help. So I did this in the morning demo, but I can do it again. If you want to see the inline help, just go to documentation, brings up SpiraDoc, which is our central document and help repository. It automatically goes to the right page, so you can see exactly where you are. It's context sensitive. The other thing you'll see on that menu is keyboard shortcuts. Some people really like to do things by keyboard. And that's no exception. So here is our keyboard shortcut reference. If you want to save things, do Control-S, log a defect, Shift-I. Again, productivity and speed are important. Let's not waste time. There's lots and lots of really cool shortcuts here, which people don't even often know we had. Okay, next thing we're going to do, and we'll do this today, is let's go create a new product. Let's go through this. There's a quick start guide. The quick start guide is a really great way. After this demo, if you like what you saw and you sign up for a trial, the Quick Start Guide walks you through how to use Spira. It goes through a sample fictitious use case. I think it's based on taking a rocket to Mars. It's quite funny, but it's a really good example of walking through the system. I'm going to do a simple example shortly, but it's basically the same idea: creating a product, creating requirements, creating release, doing some stuff, then doing some reporting. And the last thing you want to do on a trial is invite your team. Now, this seems obvious, but it's often forgotten. Oftentimes what people do is they sign up for a trial. Hey, I've got a trial. And then their colleagues or friends, maybe they're friends, maybe they're just colleagues, they sign up for a trial as well. Now you've got 3 trials and then 3 different URLs. And then you're like, I thought this was to be collaborative software. And you're like, it is, but we've got 3 different trials. That's not a good idea. So if you're going to work with your team, one of you sign up for a trial, the rest of you invite the rest of your team to use the same trial. Now you're going to get the experience of working together in the tool, which is the value. So we realized that was something that people didn't realize. We've made that part of the onboarding. So if you go through these 3 steps, you will be up and running. And then we've got a last step, which goes through how to do administration. And I did some of that this morning for the morning webinar. I'm going to do it again today, but it keeps you straight and makes sure you can see exactly how to use the tool. So this is a great resource, the onboarding. And once you finish with the onboarding, you might want to hide it so you don't see it again. I go here, and I'm just going to minimize it. So there we go. So that is the new onboarding widget. Now, this is the latest version of SpiraTest. I will mention some of the new features as we go through it. There's support for labels and tags. We've got some additional functionality as well. But for those who've not seen it before, it's all good. So let's get you oriented though. Before we go into the quick start guide and building some of the artifacts, I want to orient you in the system. So first of all, everything in Spira is organized around this top navigation bar, the dark bar at the top. The first thing is you'll see this icon in the top left with the 2 slabs. That's the SpiraTest icon. If you click on it, it takes you back to this My Page. The My Page is where you can see everything. Everything that you have to work on. So you can see I've got some recent artifacts I've clicked on from this morning's webinar. There's some assigned documents. There's my quick launch where I can quickly create defects with 1 click, or I can do Shift-I. There's also some things that are assigned to me. So because they're assigned to me, these things are active and I can see I've got a defect I found. That was a bug I logged during this morning's webinar. There's some test cases I assigned and some other stuff. So anything that you have to work on as an end user will be in your My Page. It's your single place to go and see your activities. The second thing then on the navigation bar is you'll see this hexagon icon, and you're probably thinking, what does the hexagon mean and what does it do? Well, if we go to the drop-down menu, this is the workspace selector, and workspace is a fancy name for what we call products. And so the idea with SpiraTest is you're going to be testing different systems. So if you can imagine at your organization, and I don't know what business you're in, probably several different ones, you might have like some ERP systems. You might be doing it like an Oracle or an SAP implementation, maybe using a different ERP system. You've got a financials module you're going to be implementing. You've got an HR system. You might have a company website. You probably have a CRM system. Maybe it's Salesforce, maybe it's ServiceNow, maybe it's something different. And then you've got some other stuff as well that you're working on. All these different systems we call products. They're like a project. If you're familiar with Jira or Azure DevOps, they call them projects. We've stayed away from calling them projects because we found that people would often create lots and lots of them for different versions, and that's not the way you're meant to use the system. What you should be doing is if you have, for example, an application that's going to have 3 different releases, you should not create 3 different products. You create 1 product for the system, like my ERP system, and every time I do a new version, you create releases in that particular product, and that way you keep all the requirements and everything in that product, and it's a long-lived item. In the scaled agile world, they call this a release train. It's basically a series of releases of 1 product together. And then you can take these products and you can roll them up into a program. And a product is basically a single hexagon icon. The program is a collection of products from a reporting standpoint, and that's the 3 hexagon icon. And one other really important thing is that in SpiraTest, we want to encourage good practices and quality. So one of the things we want to have is quality of the processes and the workflows. So if you've got a great way of using the system for an agile project, and maybe you have a different kind of workflow for a ERP, a packaged application project, you don't want to have lots of different projects all doing things different ways. You probably want some standardization. And so to encourage that, we have what are called product templates. And so templates are basically where all the customizations are done. That's the workflows, the custom fields, any kind of customization. It lives in a template that you apply to the product. That means you can have a small number of standardized templates that all your different products use versus having every single product be a unique thing that you have to manage. And so that's a really important feature in SpiraTest, an important part of the way we've designed the system. And that has the icon of the 2 hexagons. And so that means now you know how this works. You recognize that when you click on the single hexagon, that takes me to the product, and that takes me to my product homepage. This is my product homepage. That contains my key metrics around the system. So I can see this dashboard for either the whole system, the whole product, or I can see it for a specific release. So if I only want to look at release 1 or release 1.1, Or if we're doing Agile, I want to look at a particular sprint under that release, I can see that here as well. That's really up to you, but it lets you see the different data points for that specific release or the entire product or a specific sprint of that product. And that way you've got this dashboard, or there's different levels. And the dashboard includes lots of information around test progress, requirements, test coverage, test status, the progress count over time. You can see the defect metrics. You can see the open count, the distribution. So it's a great single pane of glass for the quality of your system. It even shows you the root cause of certain things. So if I want to see how many defects do I have, and are they all attached to one requirement that's got a major problem, you would see that right here. Now they're all pretty evenly spaced, so we don't have that issue. But if you saw 100 defects for one requirement and almost nothing for anything else, you've got a root cause that's that one requirement has got some major design issues or development issues. The other thing you might be asking is, I see you've got lots of metrics like defect counts and requirements. What if I'm using Jira for my defect management or Azure DevOps? Not a problem at all. We have bidirectional synchronization, so you can still come in here, have the benefit of the live dashboard, this single pane of glass, but the data might be managed somewhere else. So you get the best of both worlds. So that's the product dashboard. If you want to see a program dashboard, you can do the same thing, but click on a program. It now goes to the program icon right here, and you can now see metrics across multiple different projects in one place. So that's really good if you've got lots of different projects and you want to get visibility across them. So that's some of the program stuff. So the last thing before we start to create a product is let's look at the artifacts. If you go into the artifacts menu, that's where you do the work. To get this great data, you have to actually do some work, put some requirements in, you have to create some releases, create some test cases and so on. When you do that, that all lives here in the artifacts section. That's where we write our requirements, releases, where we write test cases, we run them, we can log bugs. Now you may notice, because this is a demo system, you might notice that some of these things are grayed out with a little padlock. And what that means is they're not part of SpiraTest, but they are part of SpiraTeam or SpiraPlan. And so if you see that and you click on it, it actually opens up the website where you can actually get a trial of that product. Or if you want to upgrade your existing trial, if you are looking at SpiraTest, you can upgrade to Team or Plan. So it lets you see what other functions are available without necessarily making you have to deal with them and clutter the system up. But it's a really great way to try SpiraTest, but also see what you could be adding on later. So that's what they're for. So the next thing we'll do is let's go ahead and create a brand new product. Let's create some requirements. We'll create some releases. We'll write some tests. We'll run them, log some bugs, and hopefully we'll get it all done in 20 minutes. So let's go ahead and do that. So if you notice on the top right, I didn't mention this yet. This is where we see the 3 cogs. That's the administration section. And the administration section is right here, easy to get to. It has 3 main areas. So the way we break up administration is there are some things that are product specific. So for an individual product, like this is my sample, I want to know who's on the product. I want to understand the change history of any artifacts. I want to maybe link to things like Jira. I might want to check out my options, my testing settings. We'll show some of those later. There's lots of customization at the product level. If I want to change anything to do with the workflow, the custom fields, the configuration, that's all done here at the template level. And they're in different sections because not every user has admin permissions for both of these. So you might be a project manager and you can change the project level or product level settings, but you can't change the template because that affects multiple different product teams. And then lastly, at the bottom, we have the system administration functionality. That's the system-wide functionality. So anything that you change here will affect all products in the system. And that's another level of role. So there's 3 main levels of admin: system admins, template admins, and product admins. And there's some others as well, but those are the main 3. So let's go ahead though and create a product. So that is a system admin function. So I click on the option. And if you can see here, there's my product I made this morning in my morning demo. Let's go ahead and create a new one. So we'll create a new product we're going to work in. We'll call it Adam's APAC demo. And when you create a new product, you can, for example, choose to use an existing template. And normally that's what you would probably do. You don't want to create new templates every single time. I might want to customize this for the demo. I don't want to mess up my other demo. So I'll actually create a new template. So I'll create a new one. That's fine. And I want to put this product into an existing program. I'll put it into the sample program because it is a sample. I hit create or insert, and it's now creating my new product. It takes us a few seconds. Once that's done, I'm ready to start using the systems. Just from a design philosophy, we've designed SpiraTest to have all of the basic workflows, customizations, types, statuses, all of those defaults are already in place. It's a design philosophy called sensible defaults. It sounds obvious, but it really isn't. What it means is we put some thought into it. So when you first start using the tool, you don't have to go into the administration and say, I really need to have some issue statuses. I really need to have some workflow changes. No, you don't need to do that. You can, of course, change everything, but you don't need to. You can start using it from day one, get value, and then as you start to get more familiar with the tool, you can optimize your usage or work with one of our partners to do that. And it really helps you maximize the value. What we don't want you doing is spending 2 weeks configuring the tool before you start using it, because that's not value. That's just time. And so from a value standpoint, you can use it. Literally, we've created a new product. I haven't customized this instance. It's literally an out of the box demo, and we're going to start using it. So let's go ahead. I've got my new product. The one thing I probably should do is have some people to work on it with me, so I can actually have some people do testing for me, and maybe have some business analysis, and maybe some Scrum Masters and some developers who are going to fix bugs. So that's all good. So I'm going to go have those people. Now, because the system administrator has already added them to the system, they're already here. I don't need to go, having them sign up. They've already signed up. That will be the first thing. So let's go ahead and add these people. So let's add Amy. She's going to be a manager. We're going to add Donna. She's going to be a tester. Fred's going to be another manager. Henry's going to be a developer. Maybe Jack's another tester, and we'll have Rory be, let's have him be an observer. So you can have different roles. Now you might say, well, I don't see a role that I need. Don't worry, these roles are all customizable as well. So I'm going to hit the add button, and we've now got my team. So I've now got my product, I've got my team, I'm good to go. Let's go ahead and see what I have. If I go to the dashboard, it's a completely blank product. There's nothing here, no data because we have nothing in it. We go to the testing view, it's all pretty empty as well. So that's good, it makes sense. So let's go ahead and start using it. So the first thing we want to do is add some requirements. And so we need to figure out what is this application that we're going to be testing. Let me think of a good example. Let's pretend for now it's going to be an airline reservation system, because we like to travel. It's spring is coming in the northern hemisphere, fall is coming in the southern hemisphere. It's time to travel. Good season, weather's good. Let's go traveling. So let's create a new requirement for an airline reservation system. And I'm not going to build a whole matrix for that. Now, if you are using, we have some AI functionality available, which is not in this demo version today, but you can actually have the AI functionality that we have automatically generate requirements and test cases and tasks and things for you. So if you don't feel like doing it yourself, don't worry, our AI assistant can do it for you, but I'm going to show you the traditional way of doing it. Also, if you were using Jira or Azure DevOps and you said, well, I already have my user stories, I've got my backlog, I don't want to enter this stuff again. Well, don't worry. If you connect SpiraTest to ADO, Jira, or the other tools we integrate with, we'll pull in the backlog automatically. So you already have that in the system. So that's done automatically as well. So again, that's another good option. But again, if we're starting from scratch, it's a greenfield system. We haven't got anything else in our ecosystem. How would you do it? We go in here and we create some requirements or user stories, depending what methodology you're using. So let's start with requirements. So airline reservations. That's the top level thing. And under that, we're going to add a child item, which would be typically what we want to do is first of all, find flights. That might be if we're going to use Agile, that might be our epic. Maybe we're going to have another epic, which would be, let's think it would be, so I'm doing this on the fly. We're going to find flights. We're going to, book flights, find the flights, you book the flights. And then I guess you choose seats and, do the other stuff at the end. So we'll say finish reservation, which is like choosing seats, baggage, and all that stuff. I don't work in the airline industry, so this is just from memory of using these things. And we'll go in here and let's go ahead and we'll just create a couple of stories under that. We get in real life, we would do a lot more. So finding flights, one would be, as a customer, I want to be able to search for round trip flights between two cities. And you might want to create another one, which would be, as a customer, I want to be able to search for one-way flights between two cities now. And in real life, there'll be lots of other cases. That's pretty good. And then the book flights would be, I'll just do one requirement here, which would be, as a customer, I want to be able to select flights from my search to book. Okay, I've now got some requirements. Again, they could be synchronized in from Jira. You could use AI to generate them, whatever makes sense. But we have some. Now, I didn't prioritize them, and I haven't said which version they're coming in. So we might want to do that. So the other thing we want to do is define when are we delivering these, when are we testing these. And in Spira, as I mentioned, we recommend creating a product that's going to span multiple releases, and the releases may have to, or multiple sprints. And so we should create the releases. So I'll just create 2 releases. I'll keep it simple. We're going to have a release 1.0 or MVP. We're going to create a second release, which is 2.0, which will be our sort of production version. And if you make a mistake, like I just made a mistake, you can hit edit, double click on the row, and you can then fix the mistake like that. Okay, so I've now got my 2 releases. I'm now going to go back to my requirements view, and I'm just going to map those requirements to my releases. And and someone I know, and I'm sure watching this, is thinking like, it'd be really nice if I had a board right now, a nice agile board. I could drag and drop these things. It would be very nice. And if you were using Spira Team, we do have that for you. You can see here the planning board. SpiraTest is really a set of QA solution. We're not trying to duplicate functionality you already have in your backlog planning tool. So if you're using Jira, using Azure DevOps, you have boards, you're good to go. If on the other hand, you're using Spira to be your complete solution, I would look at Spira Team instead, which is another webinar, and that does have much more sophisticated boards and tools for backlog planning than SpiraTest has, just as an aside. But in this case, we do have this in. We want to be able to link the release, and we want to decide how important it is. I'm going to use the bulk editing feature. I've chosen some rows, hit the bulk editing feature, and I'm going to go choose here. This is a high functionality. That's high functionality. It's actually all pretty high. You can't do much of this without. We'll make that medium just for the sake of it. And we'll put this in release 1, this in release 1, and we'll put that in release 2. So the first version of our tool's not going to book anything. It's just going to let you search for things. It's kind of like a Google Flights. It's going to be a searching tool, and it goes somewhere else to book. And then the second version will let us do the booking. So makes sense. Okay, I've now got my requirements. What about tests? Well, I want to create some test cases. So in the simplest thing to do is I want to create some tests, and those tests really tie to these user stories. So I could go in and simply create the tests one by one and then manually link them. But the great thing is we've got a nice shortcut. You can just choose these items, and you can do tools, create test cases like that, and it will actually automatically create the test cases for you. If I now jump down to my test case module, you'll now see I've got 3 test cases automatically created for me, 1 for each of my user stories. And if you really wanted to be really cool and modern, you could even use our AI functionality, and it would generate maybe 30 test cases for the same user stories. So that's pretty cool too. I have a webinar recording of me doing that if you want to see that on our YouTube channel. So I've created my test cases for my requirement, and let's go ahead and put them into a folder. So I've got, these are my 3 functional test cases. So if you want to be able to create a folder for my test cases, you just go in here and we'll create a functional test cases folder. So always the demo effect. So we'll do that, and we're going to check the boxes here, and we're going to drag those into my functional tests like that. So I've now got 3 functional test cases. If I want to create a regression test case, and perhaps I want to create that directly here, I can go here and do regression test cases, another folder. And if I now go into my regression test case folder, there's nothing in that one. I can just create a new test case, and that might be, end-to-end testing of the booking system. So that might be an end-to-end test. So I've now got 3 functional tests that test each of the individual features. I've got a regression test that tests the whole thing. Now, if I go to the functional test and I click on them, a second, like this, if I click on one, what you'll notice is that the actual test case here has a name. It's got a description field. We haven't populated it. It's also got a single step. Now, that step is auto-populated based on the user story name. In real life, we want this to have more information, which I'm going to create some steps. I'll show you that in a second. But the great thing is, even if you just create a test case out of the box, you can run this right away, because it does have a valid single step that you can use. And this can be very useful when you have an initial test case that you want someone to start looking at, because maybe this new functionality isn't yet finished. I don't want to have to write a whole test case out yet. It's still being explored. And what you can even do is you can turn this test case using the drop-down type into an exploratory test. I can assign it to someone like Amy, hit save, And when I do that, it's going to email Amy, and she can then run it as an exploratory test. And in an exploratory testing mode, I don't need all these steps written out. She can take this, she can start capturing what she's doing, and she can write down what happened. She can still log defects, and she can still modify the test. So for example, I'm just going to show you how it would look. If I run that in exploratory mode, what it's going to do is it creates a test case and lets you run it even when it's not yet finished. So it's really good when you've got a new functionality that's emerging, especially in an agile MVP. And here you can see, here's my test case in exploratory mode. I'm not going to spend too much time doing it, but what I could do is I can pass the step. I can even add steps. I can add observations right here. So, the first thing would be, I am trying the login page, trying to log in. The expected result would be, I expected I could get in. What actually happened, the login page broke with a 500 error. So you could do right here and you could fail that. So the great thing is you can literally write your test and document it as you're going. And that's really good in the early days of a new system or a new feature where you don't yet have a fully written out test case. So a lot of people want to be able to do exploratory testing, capture information like screenshots, put that into their session, and then they can use that to do the testing. And then as the functionality solidifies, you can basically have a more traditional test case with more steps written out. And the great thing is, this could become the start of an actual full test case, because you can actually say here, finish, and you can say, just finish and log my result, or even update the test case to include some of this information. In this case, what I wrote here really is very, very rough and ready. It's not something I'd want to give to someone else, so I'm not going to update the test case. I'm just going to leave it as is. So there we go. So you do have the ability to do exploratory testing right here in the system before you even finish your test. Okay, so we've now created a test case. We've run it in exploratory mode just to feel how it works. Now, if I wanted to write a test case that actually a tester would regularly run, what I can do is go back to my test case, and I'm going to switch it back from exploratory to a functional test. I'll hit save, and now I'm going to add some test steps. And so in SpiraTest, you can have one or more test step. So what you can do is, since I want to be able to rewrite this test, I am just going to delete this default test step. I could also just edit it, but I'll delete it. And now I'm going to add some real test steps. So this is the ability for a customer to search for a one-way flight between two cities. So let's go ahead and do that. And I'm, again, not an expert in aviation, so I'll just put down a simple example, which would be, so click on the link to search for flights. The expected result will be the flights, the flight selection page appears. Save and new. The next one might be, enter not destination, the originating airport and date. And I'm simplifying here because in real life you'd probably put the airport name and it would find the airport and stuff. We'll just keep it simple. The expected result would be the airport name and is matched, and the date is accepted. And we'll say save and new. We'll say, I can copy that. Actually enter. It's got spell checking, so if I make a mistake, you can see that. Enter the destination, airport and date. Click search. The airport name date is accepted. And a list flights is displayed. Okay, very simple three-step test case. Pretty simple. In real life, you'd probably make it a bit more elaborate, but you get the idea. So you got the test case. Great. Now, I would, in real life, then go to the next test case and write the next test case, which is for searching for the flights between two cities. This is for one. This is the one-way flight between two cities. Then you'd have the return date. Here you want to be able to do some other stuff. So in real life, I want to write all these test cases, and I would do that. Now, one thing you'd be thinking about is I haven't logged in yet. So I haven't logged into my system yet. Well, I could just create a test case and put that at the top of the test case. But imagine I want to log in before I do any of these things. That's a lot of logging in. That's a lot of having to write a step to log in. And so one of the great things in Spira is you can create a component which is then used in your test case. This is really good if you have the ability, if you want the ability to basically have the same functionality in multiple test cases. So I don't have to copy and paste steps all the time. And so not every tool does this, but we have this great feature where you can create a generic test case. So I'm just going to create a simple test case called login to the application. So I need to log in to, say it was Expedia or Google Flights, whatever the tool is that we're building. You want to be able to log in. So I'll create that. And then what you do is you write the steps just for the login piece and nothing else. So I'm going to keep that quick. I'm just going to create one which would be click on the login page. The login page appears. We'll save that. We'll add another step which would be enter the username and password. Then click submit. And this is the happy path case, so it'll be the user is authenticated and their name is displayed in the top right. And you can also, I didn't mention this, but you can put screenshots in very nicely. So if I wanted to grab a screenshot, I'm just going to add one off Expedia. My profile is there. So there you go. I should be logged in. If not, pretend my login name was there. I'm just going to grab that Expedia and I'm going to dump that right here. So there we go. There's my screenshot from Expedia. My application looks nice. Hit save. So now I've got my test case. Now, the one thing is I didn't tell someone what they want to log in as. I'm just going to move this thing over there. Let's say I want to log in with a specific user, and the different test cases that are going to use my test case will want to log in as different users. So we can do that in Spira really easily. I can create parameters. So I'm going to create a parameter called login, and I'm going to add a parameter called password. And that way I can specify these in my test case. So when the user runs the test, they don't have to guess what login and password to use. The test designer can put that in there. And if we're doing automated testing, we can even pass that to our automation script as well. So login, and we'll put in the parameter. I'm going to move that over there, and I'll insert that login there, and I'll put password, and that dollar symbol is simply the token for the parameter. Close that, hit save. So now I've got a login test case. It's really good. Now I want to use that. So I go back to my original test case that was being able to search for flights, and I now insert this as a link into my very first step. I can go there, and I can now say insert link, and I can tick my test, log in, and I can even say, well, what login do I want to use? And sorry, that's in the way. I moved over there. And we'll go here and we'll log in as user ABC123, password change me. Hopefully you don't use that for real. We add, and now I've basically logged in. So I'm logging in with that user. So it's great. So I've now got a valid login test case. And be able to do something afterwards. So I'm going to log in and search for flights. And now in real life, I would now do all the rest of the test cases. We do a lot of work doing that. But just because of time, I'm going to now jump to the next step, which is I want to run my test cases. Now, I can assign them individually to people. I just did that like with that first one, the exploratory one. But if I'm going to have lots and lots of tests, imagine I've got thousands of tests now. I don't want to have to manually assign those. Also, if I'm doing automated testing, I want to assign it to a machine to run. So to do all that assignment and scheduling, you typically go to the test set section and you do that. So we're going to create a simple manual test case set, which we'll call, testing for release 1.0. So we're going to create that. And we're going to put our tests into that. So I can now go to my test set, and I can now go for my test library and say, well, let me pick which tests. Well, I really should test everything that's going to be in release 1, and that's only going to be the searching functionality. So I'll grab these two. But I do want to do my regression test to make sure I haven't broken anything or my end-to-end stuff is going to work. So I'll also go to my regression folder, and I'll grab that one test case from there. And if you look here, we've got the functionality for testing one way and testing round trip. And let's say we really want to test one way before round trip because it's simpler. And if that fails, no point carrying on. So we can actually change it by drag and drop. You can easily move the order. This is the playlist in the test set. Okay, so that's good. Now to run the test, all I need to do is assign what release we're testing. I should assign who's doing the testing. And actually I'll assign it to me because I'm going to be logged in. So I'll do that. Hit save, and that's it. I get an email saying you've been assigned a test set. If you go to my Gmail, you'll actually see the email appear, and I'm ready to go. So I get an email, I can click on the link, or if I'm proactive, I can go to the My page, and I will see my new test set right here. That's perfect. I can hit the play button. And we can now play my test. Now it's chosen to release for me because that was already specified in the test set. Notice the build field, that's empty. If we connect SpiraTest to a CI/CD server like Jenkins or TeamCity or GitHub or GitLab, then all the builds from those tools will appear here for that release, and you can now tag the test to that release. Especially useful if you want to know, I've tested this build, the next build's been dropped, did the same thing happen or not? And for automated testing, same thing, when you run an automated test, it can be linked to the build and to the release. Let's go ahead though and do the testing. And again, just to keep it quick, we'll pass some of the first steps. So we'll pretend we logged in correctly. We'll pretend that we entered the login and password. And notice actually, if I go back 1 second, that it will display in the sample, that it will display the actual data we put in. So what my login username and password is right here. So I'm not having to guess. So as a tester, I don't have to guess what data to use. That's been predefined. If I use that login in a different test case, we can have a different login and password to use. That worked. We'll click on the link to search for flights. We'll say that worked. And then when we say we entered the airport, let's say we got a bug. And I'm just going to pretend we had a bug. I'll grab a screenshot from Expedia again, just to show you the screenshot functionality. And let's say, actually, no airports were ever displayed, regardless of what I chose. And hopefully I will put a screenshot in that showed that well. I'm just going to paste in that screenshot. There we go. And I want to log a defect and a failure. So I'll go to the defects tab. It's going to warn me if there are any existing defects. There aren't any. So that way, if I see a defect that's already logged for this step, it might be a duplicate. That way I can avoid creating multiple of the same defects, even if 2 of us are doing testing. So that's really nice. But I do want to log a defect. So we'll say that the airport matching is not working. And that's a bug, not an enhancement. These are my different defect issue types. These should match. If you're using a tool like Jira or Azure DevOps, you should make sure these are the same ones. They'll synchronize over nicely. And also we can choose things like the priority, the severity, component, these kinds of things. Also, we do support freeform tags. That was new in version 7.13. So you can now have freeform tags or labels on test cases, test runs, and test sets. Which is something that was previously only available on requirements and defects. So now it's on all the artifacts in the system. So you can use custom fields, but sometimes when you don't have a list of values up front, it's nice to be able to tag things in a free-form manner. So you can do both. So let's go ahead and fail it. So I failed that test case. Now I go to the next test case. And we didn't really write the steps out for these. So let's pretend this next one did pass. And the third one, well, let's pretend because the first one failed, I can't do the booking piece because I can't find a flight. The flights aren't matching because there's no airport match. So you could say, if for example, you have a test case where that test case can't be run because the previous ones didn't work, that's a good example where you might mark it as blocked by previous failure. And blocked is an important status because what blocked says is not that this test doesn't work, not that this functionality is broken. What this says is to the test managers, I can't test it because something else is broken. And that means there's a risk that there's a whole bunch of potentially broken functionality that we can't get to. So that's really important. When someone sees a blocked issue, a block status, it's actually in some ways more important to look at that before the actual failures. Because if you see a lot of blocks, it means you've got inherent risk in the system. You've got tests you can't run. You've got no idea how good the quality is. So we do keep these statuses separate. And if I now go back to my test case view, actually test set view, first of all, there's my test set. You'll see there's my different statuses. If I click on the test set, you'll see there my 3 different test cases, which passed, which failed. The failures are often more interesting. I'll click on the failure. You can see on the failure right away, there's my test steps, step by step. There's what I should have seen. There's what I actually saw. And there's my defect that was logged, and that defect would now be synchronized over to Jira or Azure DevOps or other tools if I'm using another tool. If not, I can manage it completely natively here in SpiraTest. If I click on the link, it will show me the defect, and I can then triage the defect. I can, for example, assign this to a developer. I can then go over here and say assign that to Fred. I might want to add a note, Fred, please fix. And that will assign the defect to Fred. It'll also warn me if any fields are required in the workflow. I need to put the start date. I want you to work on this tomorrow, Fred. And I think it should take you 5 hours. Again, you can disable these fields if you don't want them. And now Fred's got the bug to fix. And when Fred fixes the bug, it then sends a notification back to me, the tester, and I would then retest it and verify and close it. If we go into requirements, you can now see that now that the tests have run, the requirements coverage has now been updated to show passes and failures, which is really nice. So you can see not just the test results, but you can see that reporting back to the test coverage of the requirements. And if you go into reporting, you've got the dashboard starting to populate with some data, not a ton of data because obviously it's a small data sample still. Go to the home page, the graph's now populating. So just even in this 10 minutes, we've created maybe 3 test cases, a few requirements. We've now got really valuable information, even on this very small data set. So showing you get value from day one. Okay, with that, and hopefully I've asked won't kick me out. What questions do we have?
We have a question from TAFE, New South Wales, Zephyr Squad. Can it be migrated easily from Zephyr to Spira?
Great question. So right now we have migration tools for the ones I've listed. We're actually in the process of building migration tools for the Jira plugins. We have one for X-Ray that's coming out in a week or two. We're looking to build them for Squad and for Scale. So I would say reach out to your account manager, which is probably you, Camille. We can definitely talk about doing that. So what we do is when the customers come with that, if we haven't got one, it goes onto our accelerated roadmap. And I said X-Ray is going to be out next week or the week after, and we are looking at doing a Scale or Squad. So we don't currently have one for Scale or Squad, but we are looking to build one, and it will work the same way as the ones for X-Ray and TestRail and Practitest. It'll be a wizard. You click the button, and it brings everything over.
Thanks, Adam. Any other
No
questions
problem.
from the audience?
And while we're waiting, just to say, if there's ever a situation where you have data you want to migrate and it's not in a tool, or it's not in a tool that maybe it's a homegrown tool, one that we're probably not going to build something for. So it's a commercial tool, we'll probably build a migration tool. There's always the Excel option. So again, if we have a tool, definitely use that because it's obviously a lot easier. But if for any reason you want to migrate, as you can see on the website, and you don't have a tool, like we've got the ones here for ALM, Jira, X-Ray is going to go right here, TestRail, Practitest, Qtest, TestLink, Rational Quality Manager, forgot about them, HP, various different versions of that, Microsoft. If you don't see it here, then that's when you would actually use the Excel option, and that lets you migrate from any Excel document or Google Sheets document.
We have another question from
Okay.
Runsari. And would the system create multiple TCs if a user story contains multiple acceptance criteria?
Yes, if you go into the system, and again, just because of time, I kept it really simple. If you go into a requirement, you can change the type of requirement to this one. We've defined it as use case, but you can change the name, and you can define different scenarios right here. If you define different scenarios, when you create the test case, it will create different ones for you. But that's an important distinction. You need to use the feature to add the scenario option. So
Another question?
Yeah.
Can a dashboard be migrated from any other testing tool to SpiraTest?
We don't currently. This might be worth talking to the person about offline. We don't have a migration tool per se. What we do is we have the ability to create graphs and widgets in the tool. And in fact, we've got this new white paper that just came out hot off the press today. And that shows how you can create different KPIs and different graphics and different reports really easily in the tool, different metrics. So if it's like a graph or a chart, and it's one we don't have, you can create them in the tool really easily with just using our custom reporting and publishing it functionality. And that's how we built this white paper shows some of the ones we built and sort of highlights them. So if it's graphs and charts that you have, then they could be something that you could just create as a custom graph and then publish for the team. The other thing is we're releasing, I should say, a Spira app platform, opening up for third-party developers. So you could build your own widgets. So things you see on the dashboard right now that are built by us, we're opening up the system to allow you to develop your own ones. So if you've got something you've built, say in Confluence, and it's a custom thing you built in Confluence and you want to migrate it, it wouldn't be literally just a migration, but you could redevelop the exact same thing in Spira apps and build your own widgets. So it's not the exact same thing, but we do have the ability to recreate very similar things from what other tool you're using. And again, something like that, I'd probably want to talk to the person, have a little call with them, because we could figure out what kind of thing they have. Is it a tool? Is it a report? Is it functionality? Depending on what it is, there are some different options. And we do have lots of great partners in the Australia region and other parts of APAC who will be more than happy to do that for you as well.
Arun, feel free to reach out to me after. We have another question from Tafe, link to the video. Can we get a link to the video where we can use AI for test case preparation?
Yes, it's on our YouTube channel. I don't mind running a few minutes over because, again, if people want to drop off, that's fine. But if you go to our video listing, we do have videos published, and the recent ones will be here, and you'll see different examples. And one of the reasons the videos will be here, and it's the ChatGPT functionality, and it would be, if I just search, I can probably find it. But yeah, we do have the video, and we can send it to people afterwards, obviously, as well. But it's basically showing the new functionality. And you can see it live. I think it's here. We have a webinar on it, but this is what it looks like. I'll show what it looks like here. There's a webinar link we can send you. Yeah, it pops a menu like that. You choose the requirements, you hit the button, and then it builds out. In this case, I actually did it for some different examples. We did it for a registration page. We did it for a web application. We did it for, I think we did one for a I forgot, an airline, and okay, there it is. There's the video there. So that's the video, and that's me walking through some examples. I think I do a hotel reservation. I think I do an airline reservation, and you'll see the difference. Instead of it just creating a couple of different items like today, for each requirement, it's going to create 10 test cases, 10 risks, 10 scenarios. It really speeds things up. So it's a really good feature.
Thank you. Any other questions before we pause? Just one last question. The dashboard that was populated in the example product you showed, was that generated using default dashboard settings?
Yes. Everything you saw in this demo version is literally out of the box. I signed up for the trial this morning before the 2 demos, and I've not done any customization or configuration. And that's deliberate because I want to show you how you would experience it. Nothing was customized or configured before the demo.
But you can also configure it from the admin environment.
Yeah.
99 free type fields for every artifact as well. So it's very customizable.
Yeah, if you want to do that, go into it. Yeah, there's all the custom fields you can create. And you might think, why do you have so many? We have some customers that have used all 99. It's crazy. But yeah, it's very flexible, very configurable. But what we like to say is you don't have to spend the whole upfront time doing that. Use the system, evolve, and then improve and optimize.
Well, thank you everyone for joining. It's been a pleasure, and reach out to me if you have any further questions. Thanks.
Thank you.